And now for a closer look at the situation in the Middle East, we're joined today by Moamen Gouda, Professor of Middle Eastern Studies at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. So, Professor Gouda, the initial U.S. Israeli strikes killed Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei, but senior U.S. government officials have said the regime change was not their goal. So, what's the real U.S. motive in attacking Iran? What is U.S. seeking in this war with Iran?
Well, of course, it's very hard to know exactly, considering that we have multiple signals from U.S. officials. I mean, Secretary of State is saying something, President Trump is saying something else. However, I think what's happening here is that we have a collaboration between Iran and Israel, between U.S. and Israel, in destroying Iran's ability to threaten U.S. Israel in the future. This goes also with Netanyahu's claim to reshape the Middle East. So we should not forget about this, which has been said many times in the last few years. We have an energy security logic that's very important, I think, for the U.S. And also, we should not forget that we have a greater scheme of things that U.S. is trying to limit all the, I would say, cronies of China in the region and also Latin America. We have seen Venezuela collapse. We're now seeing Iran collapse. So I think U.S. is also thinking about China, although it's not being mentioned directly, but I think this is one big thing that's happening behind the curtains. So U.S. has multiple motives, unlike the claim that it doesn't have big motives. I think it has big motives behind this, considering, of course, the huge cost of war that's happening right now.
Right, and Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's second son appears to have emerged as the leading candidate to be Iran's next supreme leader. What do we know about him, and what does this mean for the Iranian regime?
Well, it's still not yet confirmed about this, as President Trump have just said a few hours ago that it's not safe to become a supreme leader right now. So it's not yet confirmed. What we know about Mujtaba is that he's a hardliner. He's very close to the ICRG, to the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. I think it will be very hard to maintain this position because Iran is now trying to assume stability or to show that it's stable, and it's very hard to find this kind of balance right now. So what Iran is trying to do right now is to shed this kind of curtain of secrecy of what's happening behind the line to show that it's still intact. However, there are still many things that are upcoming. It's still too early to know that Mustafa Khamenei will be the next supreme leader. We have to wait and see about this.
I see. And Trump also says the war could go on for weeks. And some analysts say Iran actually wants to draw out this conflict to drive up the cost of the war for the United States. What's your take on this, and how long do you think this war will last?
Well, that's a great question. Of course, it's very hard to know exactly when the war will end. But I mean, most of the analysis is talking about weeks, actually. We have to look at the economic side of things. I mean, we have to look at the data. So the estimated daily cost for the U.S. is around $1 billion each day of war. So it's really a big amount of money that's being spent. And this is more or less what's the same cost as it was in Afghanistan case. For Iran, it's a different story. We have asymmetrical warfare. We have very cheap weapons. Just for the viewers to understand, one cheap drone of Iran costs around $30,000. Requires a $3 million interceptor missile to stop. So the cost of interception is very, very high for Israel and US. And this is what Iran is bargaining on, actually, to think about the economic cost, the economic impact, and so on. I think, as an economist, that this the way of thinking of Iran will not get it very far, because US is already down the line. It's already sending, we have pushing towards troops from Kurdistan right now and Kurdish minorities in Iran and so on. So I don't think US will back away from this, especially with the personality of President Trump.
I see. And this conflict is affecting nearby places like Dubai and Qatar, and also Lebanon as Hezbollah joins this war. How do you think the situation in the Middle East will unfold? Could it expand to a wider war?
Well, I mean, we are seeing it expanding in the case of Lebanon. We have seen also yesterday some missiles coming from Iraq to Saudi Arabia, which is very shocking. So it's already expanding, but I wouldn't say that Gulf countries will wage war against Iran. Perhaps they will, of course, I mean, all diplomatic ties will be already severed by the attacks of Iran on the Gulf countries, which I think was not a great move, diplomatically speaking. So I don't think that we will have more escalation in the Gulf countries, but what we will have is that Gulf countries, I think, will maybe logistically even back up the U.S. Forces going to Iran or U.S. Powers towards Iran. So yeah, I mean, we will not see this, but we will see this mainly in Lebanon. So look out for Lebanon, look out for Iraq, look out for the Shia also in the Houthi, and this is where we will have more escalation. But other than that, I don't think we will have many other escalations in the region.
I see. We'll have to see how that goes. All right, Professor Gouda, thank you so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.